and we're going to start tonight with Team Otak, and enough of listening to me and more listening to them.
In May 2014, Mesa kicked off a design competition continuing its efforts to build a better downtown. Team Otak reimagines downtown by examining the past and present and by envisioning the potential future. We heard ideas about what defines Mesa today and what should define it tomorrow. History shapes Mesa's future. Downtown is in transition. Art creates identity. Mesa becomes a destination full of people and everyday activity. Team Otak examined how the Mesa City Center fits into the larger framework. Where the right-sized signature plaza, surrounded by development opportunities, begins the process of downtown reinvention. Where Mesa City Center is the heart of a walkable, vibrant community. A catalyst for future development. A space that celebrates all that is great and all that will be great about Mesa. What role can Mesa's City Center play in transforming downtown? Creating the heart of Mesa starts by recognizing that the whole is larger than the sum of its parts. That City Center is simply a piece of the downtown puzzle. Existing destinations seem worlds apart. Integrated design unites them as one. Integrated design means looking beyond the project site with a framework plan for the downtown that builds upon the historic square-mile plat. With the arrival of light rail, a new chapter begins, creating opportunity to reimagine downtown, with the station becoming a new gateway and hub of activity. Future redevelopment will be perpendicular to the station, with a new axis from Broadway to University. Connections from surrounding neighborhoods invigorate this access. A central spine provides a new way to traverse downtown Mesa, connecting destinations and unlocking urban infill opportunities to create a critical mass of people. Parks and open spaces are strung together to make walking enjoyable with shade provided by trees, buildings, and structures. A new transit system connects neighborhoods and destinations. At the heart of it all, Mesa City Center. Our proposal can be summarized in one word: people. Without people, the Mesa City Center will lack vitality. At 18 acres, the project site is, well, large, and people will feel lost. That's why our proposal brings many people to Mesa City Center, not just for events, but every day. Mesa City Center will be the signature address for downtown. It is from this that we carve our plaza, a plaza surrounded by life. A new Mesa living room, activated daily by residents and workers. Active ground floor uses and events will attract visitors to the plaza to enjoy community life in Mesa's Living Room Plaza. At 4 acres, the plaza is the right size, activated by 8 acres of development, generating potentially 1 million square feet of new floor space, filled with people. Our proposal maximizes the strategic value of the site by unlocking development opportunities that shape and activate a properly sized signature plaza, giving the city maximum control in determining its own destiny on the path toward a revitalized downtown Mesa. Mesa's Living Room Plaza features a series of elements to create a signature urban space. Existing buildings anchor the site, maintaining it as a civic place with a living history. They are unified by the proposed Living Room Plaza and reimagined with new uses. Mixed-use infill development creates scale. Ground floor use activates the plaza, a new public elevator to a viewpoint. The ground plane defines places in the plaza. An arrival portal at the light rail station links Mesa City Center with the Art Center, and flexible spaces in the main plaza allow for large and small events. Raised streets in the plaza serve as a festival space for special events. And intimate cobblestone courtyards mark each quadrant with scale and character. Flexible open spaces and special gardens are located throughout the site. Gardens with native plants surround the existing buildings. A sculpture walk extends through the gardens, connecting Pepper Street Museums with Mesa City Center. A terraced event lawn is the focal point for daily activities and large gatherings. Trees shape spaces and help mitigating a warm climate. To the north, large shade trees are preserved and featured as landmarks. In the main plaza, a new large canopy tree is a focal point. Rows of trees define the edges of the plaza and street. Courtyards with groves of orange trees recall Mesa's agricultural past. Water draws visitors into and through the site. A shallow reflection pond showcases trees and the repurposed council chambers. Interactive water curtain public art fountains provide cooling, while artful water patterns are expressed in paving. Furnishings and a series of iconic lighted urban markers create identity, and a sculptural shade structure creates dappled shade. A digital light bar visually activates the plaza. Illuminated shade structures, the elevator tower, and the urban markers become distinctive beacons, creating a memorable nighttime environment.
Hello Mesa, we're Team Otak. My name's Brad Bielenberg. I'm the project manager for Otak.
Thank you. My name is Martin Glasstravenloon. I'm an urban designer, also with Otak.
And I'm Carol Mayer-Reed. I'm a landscape architect and urban designer from Portland, Oregon.
Well, we're going to step you through a little bit more of what you just saw in the video. We're going to go a little bit more in depth on what the framework means, what the living signature plaza, living room plaza means, and then also kind of talk a little bit about implementation and phasing. And with that, I'll turn it over to Martin.
Thank you, Brad, and thanks everybody for showing up on a football night, and appreciate it. And it's good to see some people that we saw at the stakeholder meetings as well. I'm going to try to keep it short, but I really wanted to talk to you about one aspect of our proposal that we think is unique. As you saw in the video, I hope you liked it, we're going to deliver a fantastic living room plaza that's the right size for Mesa. But we're going to do more. We're going to do a lot more. What we propose is a strategy for livability in downtown Mesa. What we propose is a strategy for a vibrant urban district, a district with new buildings within the project site surrounding this living room plaza. So that's what I want to talk to you about a little bit. Does that all fit on this site? Oh, yes, it does. We compared, for your purpose, our site on the right to hopefully a situation, a place you know, on the left. It's a Civic Center Plaza in Phoenix. It's the one with the netted sculpture floating in the air. You've probably seen it. If you've been there, you probably know that that's not a small place. These two aerial photos are at the same exact scale. And we have shown on the Mesa site our plaza in yellow, and in red, what I want to talk about, the buildings that are going to bring life to this design, this district on a daily basis. So the city of Mesa has done fantastic work in planning to set the stage for livability to return to downtown Mesa. There's the central main plan, there is the form-based code, and of course there's this design competition that's hopefully going to bring us that signature plaza. We're going to build on all of that. Those are great ideas. But we're going to translate that, before we dive into the design of a plaza, we're going to translate that into a spatial plan that we call an urban framework plan that organizes the site in many other urban spaces. Not just one big plaza, but courtyards in green and development parcels, buildings that I talked about earlier. Also, we think there is a place for an entry portal into both Mesa Arts Center, where we are right now, at the location of the new light rail station, and Mesa City Center across the street. Piper Street, we're going to use it, we're going to keep it, we're going to reimagine it. Carol will talk more about it. The streets surrounding Mesa City Center, Center Street, Centennial, and also to the north, First Avenue, are part of our design. We want to stretch this thing, stretch it out as far as we can to touch the surrounding neighborhoods, to touch Main Street, and to really bring that activity and connect it into our design. So this is our strategy. How do we get there? This is the land that the city currently owns and is part of this proposal. And we want to put this real estate, this value to work to the best of its ability. This is what we propose to do. In green, we propose the plaza, the living room, the wonderful spaces that Carol is going to talk about more, that delivers about all the things that people are looking for in this living room plaza. In orange are development parcels. We want to hold on. We want the city to hold on to about half of this site and strike real estate deals with the private sector, maybe with some civic institutions, to bring life to this site. The plaza is the right size. The development parcels are the right size. Together, they bring vitality and make an urban district. So buildings, I talked a lot about buildings. We're not actually prescribing what the buildings should look like in this design. This is really about setting the stage for the signature plaza that's the subject of this competition. But we do have some ideas. And the framework says where those buildings should go. And we're keeping all of the existing buildings, by the way. We're going to reimagine them, some of them, and make them better, get them up to speed, move some uses. Let's share some ideas with you. And again, these are ideas. We really hope we get a chance to develop these ideas further with stakeholders and the market to get to a win-win situation. Housing. We need to bring people back into Mesa and give them a lifestyle that's urban. It's something that we don't have in Mesa at the moment. We heard from stakeholders that are aging baby boomers. They don't see themselves retiring out in the middle of nowhere. They want an active urban space to live where they can walk to uses. Millennials, same way. Where do they want to live? A lot of them leave Mesa because they can't find an exciting place to live. Let's create it right here. How about in this southwest quadrant, some nice housing, a variety of housing choices to cater to those people. In the upper left, how about the existing city offices? How about we make that a contemporary museum and bring a whole new civic attitude to this district? The council chambers on the top, we're really intrigued with that building. We think it's a little gem, a little jewel, and we want to make that the focal point of our entire district. And we're going to take the council chamber and we want to bring it closer to the plaza, closer to the light rail station, and we propose to put it right behind the existing city offices and make it a very open facility so you can see your elected officials at work for you and right on the plaza. I think those are some of the ideas that we hope plant that seed of how buildings and development can activate this district and how the living room plaza can respond to it. And the two of them together really create a synergy that is of added value. Carol?
Thank you very much. I think you forgot to mention the tax revenues that might likely come out of this, and we're very interested in those in order to help pay for some of the amenities and maintain these spaces over time.
Yeah,
So.
let me fill that in. Let me put that quote right here. Thank you. So the trick is, we talked to an economist that we work with a lot that does these kind of projects, and he said that if this development potential builds out as we hope it will in the next few years or longer, we're looking at a potential investment of 250 million private investment. That's a lot of money. And the beauty of that is that money, of course, then generates an annual tax revenue that you can use to offset some of the cost of this public realm investment. At 1%, that would be $2.5 million annually. Not bad.
Just
a
little common sense. So I have the pleasure of not only thanking you all for coming here, but also telling you about the Mesa Living Room Plaza and giving you a little bit more idea of what it's going to be like to use it, what it's going to feel like. How are you going to meet your friends there? How will you get there? What will you see when you come? And you've had the description of the plaza, the spaces, the layers, all the elements that go up to make a kind of a community. We want to emphasize that we're building a neighborhood here, not just a park. So in order to do that, we want it to grow in an organic way. We want it to grow in an authentic way. And there's going to be a lot of hands in the community that end up helping you make this space become the reality. So we also like this notion, it's sort of an urban design term we call messy vitality. So it isn't all designed, it isn't all perfect right in the beginning. It accepts change over time. In fact, it changes over 24 hours. It changes over a week. It changes seasonally, annually, and over decades, in fact. It gets patina over time. New things are added over time. So we want to make you aware of that fact. So the other thing about it is it becomes even an entirely different place at night. The kind of illumination that's possible, you have, cooler evenings than daytime, so we know that there's going to be a fair amount of evening use, and we love the idea of creating art and drama and a real draw into the evenings, having this active kind of space that we're talking about. So we're going to take a little walk through it, looking at the idea. This is from the transit station, obviously trains going by, and we're actually looking at the existing office building, and it's got an elevator tower out in front of it, a lighted, colorful tower that's a beacon along the Main Street, and it also takes you up to an observation deck on what would be the 9th floor of the city building. We've been up there. It's a fabulous view. I'm sure you're all aware of it. But we love the idea of being able to not only look down into the plaza from that perspective, but look at sunsets, look at the mountains, look at this incredible region that you live in, and be able to share that view, that fantastic 365-degree view with everybody. It's public. So down back on the ground, we'll talk a little bit about some of the comfort elements. And this idea of scaling is really important so that you're not lost out in the space. We've also talked about the idea of artistic shadeways, where you have ways to get through the entire space and still be in continuous shade. And the shadeways will be effective as the trees grow, so that putting trees in, we know, is going to take a little while. So we love the idea of having all this connectivity. And oh, there's food carts on that side. Maybe we're hungry now. We also love the idea at the Central Plaza of having this idea of a water wall, and it's an artist designed or some kind of really interactive piece that's going to be appealing to kids and have a lot of activation and hearing a lot of the sound that it will make. And I can imagine myself probably having a beer with some friends or a glass of wine, and also be surrounded by active retail, cafes that can spill out, art galleries, bars, different kinds of places. And I think I will be accurate in saying when we had our stakeholder involvement, a lot of you brought up these exact points that we're making right now, so appreciate that. Now we're going to move on to the idea of festival streets. 2 streets go through here. Pepper is one, and Fraser Street is now a new street moving through, but they don't necessarily look like typical streets. They're paved in special paving, they're curbless environments, and people flow through them. And in this case, it's a day when there's a festival market going on. We can stop by and get fruit and vegetables, or look at art, or all kinds of exhibits that can be used in those closed streets. Then we'll move on to the Central Terrace lawn. And this is a day when it looks like it's just sort of an ordinary day when people are enjoying the shade. Maybe the temperature's low enough, you could play a game of football out there or soccer. And it's just a kind of like a living room rug. It's where you hang out. And on festival days, it becomes a very active space. We're going to move up to the north end, the Mirror Pond, which is next to the council chambers. So we're in discussion about what kind of pond, but we love the idea of having a cooling element up on the north end, and it's sort of a threshold if you were to continue up to the convention center. And right next to that, believe it or not, this is the cube we're calling the council chambers, and it's been transformed. It's actually been turned inside out. Some of the bays have been deleted, and the walls have become more transparent. Maybe it's a cafe, maybe it's a visitor center, it has restrooms in it, but it also can be a backdrop for this idea of a performance space, and it looks to me like people are starting to gather there. And next to that, next to the cube, is a light bar, a very large digital display, electronic display element. It can be programmed in a number of ways, not only programmed with digital arts, visual arts. It could have a live feed from an event that's going on inside of this one. It can have games. It can have all kinds of different opportunities to provide activation in the space. It's sort of like maybe Mesa's Times Square, who knows? And then in the end, we think the community gathering is the most important thing of this space. And we love the idea of fireworks celebrations and all the things that Mesa's capable of in terms of bringing its group together, its community. So Brad, let's hear from you.
Thanks, Carol. And I think one of the key words that you heard throughout the presentation from Martin and Carol is flexibility. And with flexibility, that's a key word when we look at how does this space get implemented over time. How does the programming happen? We have flexible programming. How does parking happen? We have flexible parking alternatives. How does development happen? It's flexible. What does the city investment? It's flexible. We've looked at, from a programming standpoint, how do we create a series of spaces that are large enough to have the 4th of July ceremony? The space that is the central lawn and the paved area that's just to the south on Pepper Street, that can accommodate over 25,000 people. Instead of sitting out on asphalt to watch the fireworks, you're now sitting on a lawn and you're having a big active. Or we have program space that happens in some of the courtyards that is very intimate. It can happen at various different levels. And as Carol mentioned, we have the festival streets. You have Pepper Street, which is a raised street, and it's closed down for farmer markets on the weekends. That can expand down to the new street that we introduced going north-south, connecting Main Street and Pepper Street between Center and Centennial. Fraser, it's a festival street. It can be open. It can have the food carts. It's a flexible space. Even the streets, Centennial and Center Street, are created as flexible spaces that you can imagine, that at a time when there's a parade, it's coming down Center Street, or you have a big art festival and there's all kinds of stuff that is put out on Center Street. We look at how parking services all that, and we create flexibility in parking. We divide it between surface parking and structured parking. We create over 300 spaces that are within the project site that are just for surface parking. We've got over 500 spaces that are in structured, that are investments created by the city as well as private development that support the space. Grand total, we have over 800 parking spots that can be situated into this development that serve it and bring people here beyond the people that just live here. And as I mentioned, the festival streets, and this is Center Street. It's there every day for use. We create parking in the center of the street, so you have diagonal parking in the center of the street, But during the festivals, that's removed, and now it's tents, and it's the art fair that's happening, or it's the parade going up and down, and everybody's gathered on Center Street, and it's activating our plaza. It all spills over together, as Martin mentioned. And Pepper Street, again, this is how it could look on the festival time frame. And then how do we phase this? We looked at alternative ways of how we can phase the program. It could just be, we like the idea of the signature plaza, the living room plaza, all being built at once. But it could happen in 2 phases. It could be a 1A and a 1B, with 1A concentrated on the central lawn and the council chambers being repurposed, the installation of the digital bar, so that space becomes the gathering space immediately. And then as phase 2 happens, it can happen in conjunction with development. You know, how do the parcels head? And this is all flexible. It's not reliant on one element being installed. It can happen over time, and it can evolve, and it includes you guys, because that's what creates Signature Park, is not that we create a space that has signature elements, but people occupy it and use the space on a daily basis. And then we can look at, you know, what do we get for an investment of approximately $50 million. Our plan looks at this, and we can invest in building the elevator and the observation tower and getting people up on top of the roof and seeing those glorious sunsets and overlooking the plaza. We get the new council chambers and city office buildings. We get the plaza, the central lawn, the repurposed council chambers, the digital bar, Pepper Street. We get the streets surrounding the plaza. All that is within our budget to be had. And then if development happens, it can happen and start really activating it. Or if it takes time, we have a flexible pattern of how we can introduce food carts and additional parking to really activate the space while development is lagging. Or maybe development happens first, and now we can provide activation for there. And with that, we really want to just thank you. And
let's reimagine downtown Mesa together. Thank you.